Okay, recording in progress. Okay, Yolanda, I'll let you monitor. Okay, so Yolanda, somebody entered the waiting room. Will you just check and see if you can let them in? Awesome.
Yes, I did.
Okay, great. Thanks so much.
I got this.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. Okay, hi everyone. We are on Monday, first. Well, no, this is actually the second Monday of April. Usually we join the first Monday. But since last Monday was April 1st, we wanted to give everybody a little time to ease into the month. So here we are, April 8th, and we are super excited today. We have a guest speaker. Before I introduce our wonderful guest speaker today, if everybody could just sign in the chat, especially, well, everybody, not especially, if you are getting professional development credit, please just make sure you sign in for attendance purposes. And then I would love to just kind of, for Kathy, our guest speaker, to kind of get our demographics, and for us at Focused Kids to see and hear where some new folks might be from. If you could just sign in, maybe share where you live and what you might teach. If you're a teacher, or maybe you, I know we had a lot of people register that were in different other professions. So no, it might not, we might have some others that are teachers. And great. Well, and then while everybody's signing in, we'll kind of take a look at that. And I'll go ahead and introduce Kathy. So today we have our guest speaker is Kathy Flaminio. And Kathy is the founder of a program, an app called Movemindfully. And I believe that I first got introduced to the work that Kathy does, I think from our founder, Kathy Hegberg. And I'm guessing, Kathy, that you were probably a guest speaker in another conference or in another, some other webinar out there. And that's how you got on our radar of that, all those different networks and connections. And what I love, one of the things I love about what Kathy's offers is she is these once a week. This is just my personal, one of the personal things I love about the work she does is she offers these once a week, quick 3 to 5 minute meditations, and they come into my email inbox, and I know it's going to be there every Monday morning, and they're always really just spot on and short and meaningful. So that's been just an added bonus that I've enjoyed and loved with the work Kathy does. And she, their work is really in line with the work that Focused Kids does, in partnering with schools and community organizations to just bring mindful practices into these other settings that we're all a part of. So I'll let Kathy go ahead and start, and you can share whatever else you would like to with us, Kathy, and we'll get started. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for being here. Thanks for having me, and I'm so glad to be here. I put those all together. And I was thinking about the pause I wrote today. I started writing these pauses. I worked in Minneapolis public schools for 20 years as a social worker, and Mondays were always so hard. It was just this barrage of emails, and it was like there was nothing for me. I was like exhausted before I even began the day. And so today, I'm really excited that today's theme was Mother Teresa's quote that we belong to each other, and we have so forgotten that. And so I'm so grateful to be with all of you today, because it's really exciting to hear about people wanting to learn more and add to your toolkit of simple practices. First of all, for us. So how many people feel right now, I'm looking, there's a lot of preschool, a lot of people in different areas are kind of exhausted themselves. Like we're supposed to be the helpers and we need to be helped. Does anybody feel like that right now? Like a little bit, give me a little wave if it's been a lot. So my story is I worked in Minneapolis public schools for 20 years. I was a social worker. I was also in the fitness and wellness industry. And in 2005, I was like, what are we doing here? And it was like, I love when you get older because things start to kind of, what all these things that you do start to come into one piece. And I realized as a social worker, I was doing all my social work chin up, talking, problem solving, looking for housing, working with teachers, getting kids back in the classroom, working in IEPs and special ed and running meetings. And it was all talking and problem solving. And I realized if you're a note taker, I love one-liners, that trauma resides in our nervous system, not in the event itself. So if trauma's in the nervous system and I'm only doing chin up, but outside work in my fitness and wellness, I'm doing all this body work and I feel so good doing that. What would happen if I put it together? So I started integrating these simple mind body practices. And within 6 weeks, we saw changes we hadn't seen in, I mean, it felt like 10 years. So how many people one-on-one working with a student works okay? Like one-on-one, you got it. And then
Mhm.
they like step out in the hallway or back into the classroom or somewhere else. And you're just like, oh my gosh, that didn't generalize. But we were starting to see generalization from 5-year-olds going home and telling their parents, weave from your belly. It's a diaphragmatic breath. Like, oh my goodness. Or a 4th grader, really talking to his dad about, like, Dad, we just learned this breath, whose dad just lost his job. Here, take your hands here. We're going to just take a nice deep breath in and just let it out. Right. So, anyway, long story short, took a sabbatical, got a paid leave from the district to really research what was going on around the country with mindfulness, movement, and mental health. And that's where I developed my company. And we are in thousands of school districts. So we work a lot with school districts and different programming. We are in hospitals in child and adolescent mental health and adult and then elder mental health. And we're also in juvenile services and public health. And today we developed an app because, did anybody download the app? It's on sale right now. But the app's in Spanish, English, and French, I'll be showing you. But we developed the app because a lot of people are like, I need something like right at my fingertips. We work with a lot of EAs and paras that are out in the hallways and out at recess, and to have something so accessible was really helpful for them. So that's what we're going to be exploring today. But I really wanted to start with putting our mission and vision. When you have a company, you have this mission and vision, and sometimes it just lives on the website. And I'm like, I want this to be everywhere. So I remember that we really do envision a world where everyone thrives with these mind body practices. So if trauma's in our nervous system and it's how I am taking in life and how my nervous system is taking it in, if I have practices to partner with my nervous system, it's a game changer. It's a game changer. And so we really want to foster this physical, emotional, and mental health and you're going to hear it today. It's got to be simple and it's got to be accessible. And the cool thing is, as you start to, I'm sure a lot of these practices you know of, or you're like, oh my gosh, I do them. Because our body's wisdom, our body knows what to do when we're getting kind of overwhelmed, but we sometimes override that. So we're going to start with a Move Mindfully beginning because it does start with us. I talk to educators a lot that your nervous system is the curriculum. I'm going to say that again, that your nervous system is the curriculum or intervention, which right now I feel like, oh my gosh, I'm not doing that well. So how is my nervous system supposed to be the intervention? But what we want to do is we want to have these practices for us. So I'm going to invite you with cameras on if you want, or writing in the chat, just show me in your body where you feel stress. Where do you feel stress? All right, I'm seeing Anna maybe right here. Kelly, oh, look at everybody. Conchita right here. We're feeling it right here. Stomach, shoulders. So here's the thing. When our body gets stressed, our jaw gets tight. Anybody have tight jaw? Our eyes, headaches. How about headaches? I'll just go through the body. So your jaw gets tight, your eyes, your shoulders, right? So we're like this. You're like, no, I love education. I love my job. But if we were in total disarray, we'd be like, but it's not like you're walking around every day like, oh my gosh, I can't do my job. But your body is what? It's contracting to protect you. So right now, let's just start to unwind. So take your shoulders back. And anybody have teenagers or working with teenagers or was ever a teenager? You know, when they just say whatever and they roll their eyes, I want you to take that back with your shoulder rolls. So you're just going to go like this. Whatever. And just for a moment for this workshop, we're just going to give a little whatever. We're not going to worry about everything else. Ready? Whatever. And then go ahead, if you're in a chair, and just back bend in the chair, or if you're on the couch, maybe put your hand, and I'll explain all this later, but just stick out your tongue and just go. Then release your wrists and fingers, and then come back here, and then just shake it off. All right, and then I'm just going to have you notice, it's kind of like an MRI where you're scanning head to toe with your feet on the floor. Just start to notice how you're feeling physically. So when I go like this, I'm noticing a little headache, thirsty. So eyes can be down or closed, just notice. And then just notice your headspace right now. Are you feeling super focused? Is it foggy? Is it scattered? And then just notice what emotions are showing up. I'm sure many of you have a practice. What's showing up right now? And then take a breath in and slow breath out. So in our app, we always start with a check-in. So how are we feeling right now? So I can see on the screen, like thumbs up, I'm feeling pretty good. Sideways, it's been kind of this day, or thumbs down, it's been a pretty challenging day. Or one of the students said, well, what if I don't know? And I don't want to say, and I said, well, I already developed the app, but I will let people know. So I'm going to go like this because I love kids. It's not like here, here, here. They're kind of like this. So where are we right now? Okay. So now we're just going to do another little intervention, a little thing. So this is called brain break. And I'm going to have you notice these are on the cards, they're on card decks, they're on our posters, and they're on the app. And you're going to see a few different things. First, you're going to see the name of the move. And then there's going to be some affirming language. If you want to use it while doing the move, I take a break. So I'm going to have you, if you'd like, rub your hands together. So Dinah's got her hands. This is called a neurovascular hold on the frontal cortex in the back. And Luli has her hands on top of her head. So let's just see how that feels. Taking just a break right now. And again, you can decide if you want your eyes open or closed. Just begin to let go of your day. One more breath. And then we release down. All right, can you hear that this is my tool? What's different about me just now? Someone can unmute. We've got a small enough workshop
You
here.
seem more at ease, or just everything slowed down?
So yeah, so can you hear my voice slow down?
Mhm.
Can you hear my cadence slow down? And I know where my feet are. I've like dropped my tension down. So another quote we often use is, and I need to give reference to who it is, and I don't remember right now, but trauma is too much, too fast, too soon. Trauma is too much, too fast, too soon. So Susan, what you just noticed about me is the intervention. Lower and slower, lower, slower voice, lower, slower diaphragmatic breath, lower, slower cadence, right? Now, this might not be your intervention for you, but for me, if I start every meeting when I get on Zoom with people, I also, which I'll show you right now. This is another one of mine. So if you want to place your hand on your heart and it lightly touches your sternal notch, you're not pushing on it. It just lightly places there, if that's comfortable. And this can often deactivate your flight, fight, freeze. Now, does anybody know why we put our hand on our heart when someone tells us something big? Why do we do that? It's that heart connection, right? Yeah, Yolanda, why do we do that?
To calm ourselves down.
Like I do this all the time. I'm so sorry. Oh my gosh. But I'm, as the helper, I'm keeping my body regulated so I can be in relationship with the person that's needing my help, whether that person is 15 months old or my mother who's 88, which feels overwhelming every day sometimes for me. So when I have my hand here, I can stay in relationship and connection without taking on what they're doing, because that's not my story, that's their story. Does that make sense? We want to be witnessed. We want to be witnessed. We want to walk with people and not take their stories. But as teachers, social workers, counselors, we take everything in, whether we're realizing it or not. Their stories are in the tissue of our body, right? So we want to start to process. That's what you're going to learn how to use the app today, to metabolize the stress as it's coming in so it doesn't metabolize you. And so you can stay in relationship, which we call co-regulation, right? All right, so in this work in Move Mindfully, we often say move a muscle, change a thought. I might just be doing this by saying I take a break and I can start to shift how I feel. But we can all also do this with imagery, and I'm sure many of you use imagery in your work. This is the Portland coast. So when we see something beautiful, that can often shift how we feel. So these are the inner resource cards that we've created with Jackie Levine. And I'm just going to have you take a moment today and just look at that card and the message. Inner resource hope, believe in possibilities. And this is the message from hope for you today. Hope is the energy that invites possibility. With hope, I know positive change is coming. So the wish for all of you is, may you feel the freedom to wish big, and may your wishes come true at the time, place, and way that's right for you. I think that mind-body practices help us stay hopeful. They help us see the bigger picture. So I'm going to have you just notice if you liked one of those stretches, the shoulders, the breath work, or just looking at an image. And if it just shifted a little bit, like how are we feeling right now? Here, here, here. Did we like that one? If you like this one, write it down. All right. So this is what we've created. And actually, Amanda, we were talking about just how could you even imagine your work gets to this point? So the work that we started to do in the hospitals and the schools, we really realized we're always working in these 3 domains. We call it embodied SEL. So we're obviously working on physical regulation through mind-body practices, through regulating movement. So all movement's not created equal in school. Sometimes we do a lot of movement. Movement's really good, but it gets students even more dysregulated. So if we like some of the big movement, has anybody noticed that? So if we like some of these movements, if you start to put some of these more regulating movements in, you're going to start to see really intentional movement occur. And then we're working on cognitive regulation. So that growth mindset, positive, affirming language. And then this emotional regulation, which is our ability, right, how would you define emotional regulation? I would love to hear from you all. Because that's the big thing these days, isn't it? Anybody want to unmute? Yeah.
I think it starts with that awareness of just like being aware of where you're at in your body, in your mind. And you can start to regulate with your emotion through awareness. That's what I've learned, I think, is the biggest piece.
It's a huge piece, because if I can start to notice what's happening, and a lot of times kids can't name a feeling. Like I might not be able to say I'm mad or sad, but I can tell you right now I have a stomach ache. I remember having a student do a move and she was just so upset. She went upside down, did some deep input, and all of a sudden she's like, I'm angry because blah, 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 blah. So it's our ability to be with our emotions, to not have our emotions overwhelm us, but to work with them. So if I have really high energy and someone tells me to take a slow breath, that might not land well, because that's way too hard. I'm like, I'm up here and you're asking me to come here. So emotional regulation is meeting our bodies where we're at and then bringing it into that, what we call kind of a relaxed alert state, where our bodies are relaxed and we're aware and able to listen, learn, and make good choices. So has anybody seen any of these kind of symptoms? Heart rate, unable to sit still. I think this constant chattering and blurting in schools has really increased, right? This verbal lashing out, running away, striking, destructive, seeming not to care. We're seeing a lot of this too. Are you seeing this? Checking out,
Yeah, a
shutting
lot.
down, like complete shutdown. What else are you all seeing right now? I see these extremes in our schools right now. I see a lot of running, and then I see complete shutdown.
Mhm.
I was gonna just elaborate a little on the shutdown, where perspective seems to be. There's this shift in, you know, something happening to the child that could be very typical, and it just is all of a sudden has this massive impact on their mood. And just in my years of working with kids, I feel like that's exasperating a little
Yeah.
bit.
That's totally right, Susan. And I think that's our window of tolerance, where we just have kids too. We have so much going on that we get to school and we have like this much left. And so some little thing happens and it's just like, and haven't you felt that as an adult? Like just your capacity has been diminished a little bit, right? So with the mind body practices, we're trying to build that larger window of tolerance. And then when you put trauma and toxic stress and all that, sometimes I really believe, like when we talk about how big the problem is, you know, we don't know all that's going on. Like if someone walks down the hallway and someone brushes me, that doesn't seem like a very big problem. But when I've had things happen where I get startled easy, right? So we see these big emotional outbursts. And so this is really important. And in our longer training, we really go into Dr. Bruce Perry's neurosequential model of therapeutics, basically of how, I mean, this piece of it we go into. He's got an amazing training that they do in schools. But just understanding, this was my aha moment, that this is how the brain takes in the world. So let's place our hands at the back of our brain and repeat, regulate. Hand goes higher up on the brain, relate. Hand goes to the front of the brain, reason. Let's do that again. Regulate, relate, reason. So this is how we take in the world through our senses, right? It's a sensorial experience. And then we move up into our ability to connect. So education and therapy are usually front to back. But this is the way that our brains take in the world. So if you are not regulated, you're not able to move into that human connection and actually read facial cues as being safe. And if I'm not regulated, not able to move and feeling safe, I'm not able to, right, listen, learn, and make good choices. So that was my big aha moment. I was doing kind of these upstairs, interventions, like Daniel Siegel's model of the upstairs intervention, when kids were in the downstairs part of the brain or in the regulating part of the brain. So that bottom part of the brain does not respond to talking. And we know this when kids are really upset. They tell us, get away from me, stop looking at me, quit following me, I hate you, you get paid, that's why you're here. And I'm thinking, well, I don't get paid that much to be here, right? But do you hear that? Quit talking to me, stop following me, and what do? We talk and we follow because our job is to keep them safe. But what if we started to do what you all are doing and we're doing with Move Mindfully, start really working out with regulating that downstairs part of the brain. So there's the diaphragmatic breathing, the regulating movement. We talk about tapping, our ability to get into the body and work at different acupressure points. I don't know, does anybody know about cold press on the back of your neck or on the front of your chest to activate the vagus nerve, which is part of getting that relaxation response? So I just made 1,000 ice packs. I would love every teacher to have that rather than kids going to the nurse, just getting that relaxation response by something cold, splashing a little cold water can help too. Guided imagery, music, art, these are all things we can do to regulate that lower part of the brain. And today we're going to be doing it with exploring these simple breathing techniques, the mindful movement to really help with that self-regulation, attention, and concentration. And we always rest at the end of we always take a nap at the end of our practice. So I'm going to, yes.
Oh, I was just going to jump in because I think one thing that, and you'll probably talk about this, but I just wanted to put it on your radar, that I've been hearing a lot from teachers is it's so much harder to engage those kids in practices that are the shutdown kids, right? It's like the ones that are in the red zone are like, you can kind of get them and bring, you have more tools, but it's those kids that are really in that blue zone that are shut down, that are checked out, disengaged. So I'm sure our teachers today would love some of
All right, I'm going to give you a strategy right now.
Okay.
All right, everybody, rub your hands together. I see some of your heads are down and we're feeling kind of tired today. Let's just rub our hands together. And let's say, Amanda, you are totally shut down. And I have a relationship with you. And I said, Amanda, you're not going to believe this, but you're doing one of our first moves. We're going to do it today. So I'm going to have you. Now, some of you don't like to touch your face, or you might want to see. So you can go like this. So you can go like this. You can go like this. You can hold your front of your head. You can stack one potato, two potato like this, or smashed potato. So I'm either going like this, and let's all just give ourselves a break. We all need a break in the day sometimes. So let's just take a break, everybody, and let's just take a few breaths right here. It's hard sometimes, isn't it? Let's just give ourselves a break. Let's just take one more breath. Now, if you want to stay here, if you're ready, just lift up. Even if you're not ready, maybe just try this. It's going to be really silly. We're going to lift up like this. And then go ahead and go back. Put your head back down and take a breath. All right, and slowly lift up. So do you see how we're going to totally meet that shutdown? And you hear the language, we all need a break. We can't sustain it. So sometimes with mind body practices, people say, all right, we're going to do mindfulness. And the kids are like, I don't want to do mindfulness, because here's what happens. It gets way too quiet. And when it gets way too quiet, I get anxious. And people always say, just take slow breaths. It's going to help you. When I slow down my breath, that makes me feel more anxious, because I have this good breath that keeps me awake and ready and alert. And I know where everything is in the room, and I know how to get to the door as fast as I can. And now you're telling me to cover my eyes or whatever. So we want to give lots of choices. This I love because you're rubbing your hands together. You're just giving some energy and creating heat. And then you're putting heat on a muscle, relax the eyebrows. So if the eyes are relaxed and visual stimulation is taken away, that's why kids are shutting down too. It's just too much. But then we're going to get them back. So on our posters and all that, that's one of the sleep, that's one of the blue zone. So we've aligned with Leah's here from Zones of Regulation. So our posters match because we're in a lot of the same schools. And so the blue poster goes with that. Yeah. So was that helpful? Who liked that one? Anybody like that one? That feels so good. And just so you know, neural brain vascular blood, your hands are electromagnetic. When you put your hand, it's bringing circulation to the frontal cortex. It's telling the brain. And then when we hold the back of the brain, that's like honoring that beautiful system that keeps us safe. So I hope you hear in our language, I think what happens is that the kids are showing quote behavior, and these trauma responses are protective and reflexive. So we want to really empower them, like, oh my gosh, your brainy body's so smart. But we can't be like this all day. Oh my gosh, we wouldn't be able to do anything. But we can shut down for a little bit. You know, kids fall on the floor. Everybody's like, I can't get them off the floor, especially those with your toddlers, the big tantrum. If you have not done a tantrum as an adult, I highly recommend you do that. You flop on the floor. I call it the splat, and you'll know why they they go to the floor. It's grounding. It lets them know where their body is. And you let out a big scream. And if you haven't done that as adults, do that. And you'll see the wisdom. Now I'm making like, we can't be like falling on the floor and crying all day. But if we start to meet the bodies where we're at and make it part of the routine, then we start to see less and less of it, because we're all doing it together.
I love that shift too, in like think in that shift in mindset of like, instead of, oh my God, this kid is flopping on the ground, they're having another temper tantrum. It's like, oh, okay, this is what their body needs right now. They need to connect to the earth, they need a ground, like they're doing what their body needs to do, and then we can help them rebuild, because like you said, you can stay in that state all day long. But I love that shift in how your perception of what's happening to that child.
Yeah, it's so helpful, because then you have a lot more ideas too. Because I used to be like, I work with older kids too, and there's just like, oh my gosh, they're manipulating. Well, if I just stay with manipulation, I have no creative ideas of what to do. So let's go through the app. Those of you that have the app, if you don't have the app, it's just super simple. I just want to walk through a few things. We always start with that self-reflection, because we want them to build their toolkit. What works for you? Then you move into the settings, and in the settings you can press, it's Spanish, English, and French. It's over 6 years old or under. So you're going to see just imagery that matches and language that match. Now, this is important. If you're going to use teacher guidance, that means someone's guiding you. There's a voice. You're going to turn that volume up, and you're going to turn the volume up on your phone. A lot of times people are like, I have the volume up, but you don't have it on your phone up or on the iPad or Chromebook. And, our vision is that this gets in our school districts on all the Chromebooks, and then it goes home with the kids. And guess what? Now the families get it. And it's in their own, hopefully we'll expand to other languages. We have a large Spanish population. And so it's really nice that kids, when they need some regulation to hear something, they're in their peace corner or take a break place, and they can listen to it and find their own strategies. So Spanish, English, and French. Then when you get on here, you've got an opportunity. So what we were saying, that's low energy. So you might say, this week we're working on when we have really low energy. So those are routines, or you could pick just a move. And the moves are on carousels. So there's, arrows, or you can type in, some of you that are familiar with some of these yoga-based movements or regulating movement, you could type in some of these movements. All right. So I'm going to take you through a few things today. And what I love about these is find what you like today. Because if you like one of these, I always say start with that. So you'll see this one I can tell that it has the voiceover, because it doesn't have a script, and it's got a timer on how long this is. So Dinah's starting. So let's just we did this, but we're going to do it again. Now that we know that we're bringing blood to our frontal cortex, we're going to take our hands and just give ourselves a little break here. And as you're breathing in, I'm just going to have we have a little about 20 minutes left. Just decide how you want to show up the rest of the time. Just one word. Is it present or strong or flexible, open? Just take a few breaths there. And then we're going to slowly release, and you're going to do what Claire is doing, and you're going to just give your body a twist. And this one is super good. It's orienting the body. So you're going to notice what's behind you, and just notice 3 things you appreciate in your space, not what needs to be cleaned or picked up. 3 things in your space. And then slowly come back to center. And we're going to go to the other side. And then notice two things that you hear. When you hear two different things, give me a thumbs up. And then touch one thing. You could touch your fingers. You could touch if you have a coffee mug. Okay, so that's called sensory check-in, which people do, but we've incorporated a twist. So just a twist, again, in our longer workshops, we're going to talk about it, but a few things. A twist is orienting. A lot of times when kids are distracted, they're put up in the front of the classroom and their bodies don't feel safe. They don't know who's behind them, right? I don't know my so it's orienting the body. It's stretching out the psoas, the hip flexor muscle. It's stretching the spine. It's also how many people are working with kids with stomach aches, somatic complaints, anxious, and also you yourself have digestion issues. So that's a sign of stress because your body doesn't need to be digesting when we have to keep ourselves safe. So we're going to try that twist again so you can feel in your body. You're going like this and squeezing into the digestive system. When you release, all this fresh oxygenated blood is moved out. You can do this in little circle time with kids, you know, and crisscross or just in their chairs. Let's try it again. Draw the navel in. And this time we'll just do the physical. We're just allowing ourselves to feel that compression and come back, go to the other side. And then we just notice how we feel. Thumbs up, did we like that one? Sideways or down? If you liked it, thumbs up, maybe write down on your notes, like, when might you use this? I'm going to use this during morning meeting. I really like this. We're going to try that or whatever. So we can put these right in. And then we've got our lovely younger youth. This is where we would stop and listen. So we might ring a chime and then our hands are on top of our head. Some people use mindfulness chimes. This is, again, putting pressure on the head. It's getting input into the brain. And then when we hear the end of the chime or the sound, we bring our hands down. So on our card decks, you'll see that they're divided into getting started, breathe, move, rest. On the app, you just scroll through. It's getting started activities. It doesn't mean you only have to use them to get started, but they're great activities to start morning meeting, to end between a subject, to use for transition before we're going to transition. That gets tricky. So just to kind of ground kids in. And then here, if you had the language teacher guidance off, you're going to have reading. Okay, so sometimes with the older kids, we have kids start to read. And again, you'll see the different age groups. So this is over 6 and this is under 6. So let's do fingertip breathing. So we just place our hands to here. We're going to go fingertip to a big exhale. So breathe in, take your hands out. A lot of you know this, or the Hoberman sphere, and breathe out. If you need practice focusing, try to touch your fingers together. So breathe in and try to match your fingers up. One more time. Actually, let's do it one more with that affirming language. So when you breathe in, I am. And when you breathe out, here. And then we just notice if we like that one, I am here, or we're touching fingers, lots of different things. And then the other breath I just want to point out is, so this, you know, if I'm working with a kid and I just say, press your fingers together, they might like that. And then we're going to do slow breaths. Is your dysregulated student, your very, very student, going to breathe like this? How are they going to breathe? And we're not going to be like, oh my gosh, no, we're doing slow breathing. We might be like, Susan, I love that you're breathing fast. Can you show me how you do that real quick? Ready? Let's go. When would you need that breath, Susan? And or Catherine, you might need it when you're out at recess or when we're at gym, but right when we need to listen, learn, and make good choices. This is your superpower, that we breathe really fast. We know how to do that. And then our superpower is knowing how to breathe slow. Can you show me your superpower? You know, with older kids, I'm like, you just gave your power away. You just totally reacted. Your heart rate went up. And you just gave your power to that kid and to me. Don't give me your power. I want you to stand in your own power. Know how to get your breath up really high. And for those of you adults, when you're tired, that little breath that kid did when they thought they were going to get in trouble by being really goofy, that's a great breath to do when you're feeling tired. Or that's a great breath. So we want to learn how to use both. Does that make sense? Those of you that put words in, you could use it with your breath. I am focused. So when kids have their own word. The sh breath is another breath that we do, and this is a releasing breath. So we know when we get mad, blood is taken from our frontal cortex, right? And it's going to our extremities. A lot of blood flow to the hands. You're going to take your hands and you're going to like this. Breathe in. And this breathe out. Just go. Shh. Let's try it again. Breathe in. Breathe out. Shh. One more time. Breathe in. Breathe out. Shh. And then find your breath here that we can go and slow it down. Slow down your breath, stay in your power, and then shake it out. All right, so you'll see all those different kinds of breath work, lion's breath, fingertip breathing with younger kids. It's going to be more playful, simple language, or just visuals. The moves in the app are all sorts of different moves. I like to highlight this move because I feel like we are trying to calm everyone down, and they have a right to not be calm right now. Things are not calm, so we need to get the push. We need to get that proprioceptive input. So I'm going to invite you to either try wall dog or chair dog or wall push, because we've already been sitting way too long. I personally haven't shared that I haven't been officially diagnosed, but I have difficulty sitting and paying attention. So a lot of the strategies we have developed are good for kids like me that have ADHD. So we're gonna, for you, you can go like this and just stretch your own spine. You can stay at your desk, but we're just gonna take 3 breaths and just at least get our eyes away from the camera. You could push at the wall. If you've had a big day, maybe work on pushing. But we're just gonna lengthen our spine and take a few breaths here. And take one more breath. And then slowly come up. And as long as we're standing up, let's just get into our sway. Let's just get into our bilateral movement and just give our spine that little crossbody. We know that when we get stressed, we do what's called homolateral. We only go this way. We lose our ability to work, or, really use our whole brain. So anytime we can do this cross prong, that could be really helpful. And I'm going to have you shake it out and go ahead and take a seat and just notice if you like that one. Thumbs up, I liked it, sideways or down. So we're looking for tiny shifts, especially those of us that are working with older kids. They're like, I didn't feel anything. And I said, that's okay. We're going to practice some things, but we want to find something that your body really likes. And I'm not talking about going like, I feel really great. I just did that move. I feel great. It's like, did you get a tiny relief? Did you get a tiny relief? And then you'll see rest practices, and rest is so critical. We are sleep deprived. And it's not even like the amount of sleep so much right now, it's the quality of sleep. Right? So every classroom, if I want to get buy-in, I walk into every classroom, we do demos in the class, and I say, how many of you have difficulty sleeping? And we did this with kindergartners all the way up, 90% of the classes. And it's so hard to learn and pay attention when you're tired. And so we want, especially in schools, because it's just boom, 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 boom. I mean, like the brain is not even made to take in all that information. Like we are literally pouring in information because we're trying to teach all these things and they're not even available. They're not regulated. So we want to do rest breaks, and we're going to, in the beginning, we were just talking about this yesterday with a group of educators. We actually were working at a retreat with some kids, some high school kids, and just talking about how some kids, when they start some of these rests, they fall asleep. So what do I do? And I said, well, in the beginning, they kind of do fall asleep, but we're going to train them so they're just like 1 to 2 minutes. So the movements we do are really trying to just get that integration and that just break from everything. So with little ones, you can see the little animal on the belly, you know, breathing with the belly, or this feet on the chair, just having the legs elevated. And again, you're going to see on the app, they've got scripts or no scripts. All right, I'm going to stop for a second before I'm going to give a few more slides if there's any questions.
So, you know, I hear often, I've read often, how the calm is sometimes very triggering for humans, just doesn't matter if it's child or adult. So, I mean, do you recommend like there's like some education prior to doing a calming activity of, you know, for some of you, this may cause you to feel a little more nervous. How do you recommend navigating that when, especially when working in whole group? When I
Yeah.
work one-on-one, I feel like I have a better, you know, understanding of that. But with whole group, how do you navigate that?
What age group are we talking for you? Are you working
Um,
with all different ages?
yeah, yeah. I would say probably more so, you know, the elementary years.
Yeah. So some of the things you're going to see with our stuff, like, so calm doesn't mean regulated. I mean, I think we have to
Right,
realize
right.
that it looks different for everybody. So a lot of things, so we do stuff like with tapping where it's calming, but you're still moving your body. You'll see
Mhm.
here. So it's not like we're just sitting. I think
Okay.
when we get just sitting, it gets scary.
Okay.
So
Okay.
I use some phrases like, hey, does sometimes when it gets really quiet, that feels really uncomfortable. And sometimes that feels kind of, I don't know if I would say, I mean, it depends on the class. It just kind of, sometimes that feels uncomfortable or scary. With educators, I definitely say sometimes the quieter it gets, it's really uncomfortable for students. And that's when you get this blurting out and stuff. But for kids, I'm like, it feels kind of funny when we're all quiet, doesn't it? So just notice that. So if I was doing a rest, let's say, Susan, I was teaching a rest activity, I'm always going to say, if you want to rest, does not mean you have to be still, everybody, because sometimes when we get still, it doesn't feel right in our bodies. So sometimes I say, sometimes we can do like these just little drawings in the sky, like these figure eights, everyone are really comforting. Or you can lean against the wall, or I'm going to say you can pick the music. Sometimes I say you can look at the clock and can you be my clock watcher? We're going to and I tell kids, we're just going to rest. I always say we're just going to take a break. I try not to use the word relaxation too much because so many people have told them to relax. They're like, if I knew how to relax, I probably would. And they don't have a sense of that. So sometimes I just say, we're going to just take a break for a minute. So you can sit up, you can have your hands on your head. So if trauma is severe lack of choice, we definitely want to give lots of choices. Does that make
I
sense?
Yeah, makes great sense. And what you just said at the end really stood out of providing a time of how much it's going to last, right? So that they're not like, how much longer, right? If we say only doing this for about a minute or 30 seconds or whatever. So that will be really helpful.
And then just know there's so many different ways to relax, listening to me, all those things for the lower part of the brain.
Yeah.
And then eventually we get to, I mean, it's just different for every kid. We want to find a place where they're feeling. So this progressive rest is one of my favorites because it's like we're resting, but we're tensing muscles and we're releasing. So I might do like a quick one like this. Like I'm going to do this with all of you. I'm just going to say, all right, everybody, we're just going to do a quick break right now. I'm going to have you just take a breath in through your nose and you're going to squeeze your eyes, cheeks, jaw, squeeze your arms, your hands, your belly, your legs, your toes. Everybody give a squeeze. Feel your muscles tight and then release your eyes, cheeks, jaw, shoulders, arms, hands, belly, legs, and wiggle your toes. Let's try that again. Breathe in. So this is like a quick progressive. Squeeze, eyes, cheeks, jaw, shoulders, arms, hands, belly, legs, toes, and release. eyes, cheeks, jaw, shoulders, arms, hands. Stay with me. Find your legs, find your toes. Take a breath in. And the intense kids are going to be like, and with littles, we're not saying squeeze your eyes because they're literally going to, or squeeze your toes. They're literally going to pick up their toe and squeeze it. So we do wiggle, wiggle, wiggle your toes and rest, right? All right, let me show you a few more things and then we'll take a nap ourselves. So when you have any of these, if you are using our cards or the app, we want to just choosing moves like choosing, releasing, and calming breaths. I really like to teach releasing breaths in the beginning. So it's not all about calming because you get to calm after the release. We want different stretches to energize, and again, stretches that are regulating. If we're thinking about high energy, our brain goes to like this, we need that pushing, we need that weight bearing movements that can be really helpful. And then just going through and just taking these rest breaks throughout the day. So you're going to see, again, this is the whole front of the app. You can start with like a routine. So let's just say I'm feeling low energy. So I'm going to go into low energy, and then I've got two choices here. Well, one of the choices is tired. Now look, Amanda, where we started with that shutdown move. Then we moved into, this is a psoas, an outer hip stretch. It's not demanding a lot for the body, but if you release that muscle, it's going to wake up the brain. And then look at this. Now we've got a back bend. So we did a lot of thoughts. We were very thoughtful about how to take a state and bring it back. And then they notice how they feel. And it's the same way with the littles. So let's say we're doing anxious, scared. You're going to come up to 2 windows. And some of the windows, when you press on it, it says you want it standing or seated. So let's say you're in a classroom where you're like, there's no way, there's not enough room. We tried to do this where you can still do it, but you could just do seated in your chair, and that's going to give you an option too. So it has a lot. And then we've got our lovely kids who have been doing our mind body practices since they were about 10 months old, 11 months old. They were so excited to model for this project. And so we've got the swaying, which is a calming movement. And then we stand proud in our mountain and we reach up, hi, sun. And then we move into waterfall. And then they notice. So with the routines, we really want to just start to really meet the body where it's at.
Can I ask a quick question about that?
Yeah.
So I work with kiddos that are like birth to 5 years old.
Yeah.
How do you start teaching those kiddos at, say, 10 months old? Do you have the parents help them with those movements?
The parents are doing some of the moves. And at that point, Kelly, we do a lot with parents, just understanding their own regulation. So they're modeling and actually doing these, just like you would do other things. But yeah, the rocking they would do, rock, or sway, they would go side to side. And a lot of it is parents like doing those moves themselves, their own regulation. All these moves are for the adult too. And we know how important that is. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
And we have kids. I mean, I did not want to do an app because I didn't want more electronics. I'm like, oh my gosh, now. But as we know, these littles, they're able to go through the screen. I'm like, well, if there are all these other electronics, I love that our stuff can be a part of what they can do. We were at the farmer's market and this little kid was doing breathing exercises. They were literally, I mean, I can't believe they know how to do these with their phones and apps and stuff. So it is a way to do things together, Yeah. All right. So I just want to let you know, if you want to look at that scanner code, we have some free resources. Our website's pretty robust. These resources give you some samples of our work, so you can scan that code. And then we also, our whole thing is we were talking about this, Amanda, before, but just this common language visuals. I want to be able to walk into a school and see things that are talking about mental, physical, and emotional health. So we've kind of gone overboard on on our products in Spanish, French, English, Somali, just so people can come in and have visuals to do things. So like in some of our buildings where we've worked with the whole school, we'll come in and there's posters in the hallways and their take a break corners, and the kids are learning these with the teachers throughout the day. And we really have seen that teachers, when we did research with our work, we did action research where I got really excited. Of course, decibels and classroom level went down, behavior referrals went down, drop everything and read, our focus went up. But where I got really excited right now, everybody, is you all. You, the teachers, were doing this during the day and feeling better. So, and that's really important right now for all of us and the social workers, administrators. So I'm going to invite you, if you want to go and put your legs up, you can do that. So it looks like this. If you've never done legs up the wall, this is what the Navy SEALs, and we have a minute. So you're only going to be here for about a minute, but you got to sit close to your wall. Otherwise you can't do this. And then you swing your legs up. And those of you with neck or shoulder issues, this can be super helpful, just like this. Or you can go like this. If you're doing this, and you're leaving and you want to stay longer, you stay there. But when you're ready, you roll to the side. This is just going to help with your own regulation. And I tell teachers then sit against the wall. So they do it during their prep, 2 minutes, and then sit against the wall, and then they go make their copies or do whatever they need to do. So go ahead, rub your hands together. If you're staying in the chair, you can stay there. We'll cover our eyes if that's comfortable. And let's just for 1 minute. I've talked enough. Let's just give ourselves a break. I'm not going to talk. Just let yourself let go of all this material. There's no hurry for it. And then just take a breath in. Slow breath out. If you're on the floor, stay there. If you can, wiggle your fingers and your toes. Maybe release your neck. Maybe stretch your body in any way that feels good. And at the end of the day, like I said, I think in the very beginning, the breathe, move, rest practices, the mind-body practices help you be present. And when you are present, your presence is the intervention. A child gets to be seen, heard, and understood. And that's where healing happens, and that's where learning happens. So I'm super grateful for you all. Thank you so much for having me. Just with all these mind-body practices, I get excited. They don't have to be a ton of them. Like, find what you like, keep it super simple. Every time you do one of these things, you're going from the back of the brain to the front of the brain. So thank you. And that's our information if you want to learn more. And there's a form, a feedback form, Amanda, right? They need to fill out.
Yes, and I just stuck it in the chat. So if everyone could please, it will take you less than 3 minutes. If you could take a couple minutes to fill that out, that's always very, very helpful as we move forward and continue to support all of you. Because like Kathy said, I love that quote, just about your nervous system is the intervention. So thank you so much for being here with us today, Kathy. I hope we can have you back and just
I would love to be back. I'd love to be live. We used to go to Colorado since I was 3. We went to Colorado every summer. We went to Rocky Mountain National Park. And when I turned 7, I got my first backpack and backpack from there. So
yay, we need to get you to our community and
I
bring
need
you
to be in the mountains.
Yes.
So thank you all. I'll wait, but Otherwise, have a great day, everybody.
Okay, yeah, if anybody wants to stay on, if anybody has questions about how to access anything with Move Mindfully, or questions for me, feel free to stay on. We'll be on for just another moment. Thanks so much, everyone. Happy April, spring. Take care of yourselves as you move forward towards the end of the school year. Thank you. Thanks, Conchita, for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Great to see you.
Great to see you too.